He told me, "I'm your father. You have to respect me." I just stayed silent. But my mother's words echoed in my head. He thought his secrets were buried with his marriage. He had no idea I was about to dig them all up right at the dinner table. So, I'm 26. And for the first time in my life, I'm really talking to my mom about her marriage to my dad. They'd been divorced for over a decade. And I figured enough time had passed. I was an adult now. I could handle the real story. Not the sanitized, we just grew apart version. They gave us kids. I started the conversation myself, just wanting to understand my own history a little better. I was not prepared for what I was about to find out. We were in her kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, the whole scene feeling deceptively normal. She was stirring her coffee, talking about the early days of their relationship. I asked a pretty straightforward question. Something like, "So, was I a planned baby?" My mom laughed. A light, airy sound that didn't match the weight of her words. "Oh, God no," she said, taking a sip. "You were a total surprise. I mean, it's hard to consent to something when you're sound asleep." She said it so casually, like she was telling a funny anecdote about burning a roast. But my entire world just stopped. The coffee cup in my hand suddenly felt like it weighed 100 pounds. My brain scrambled to process the sentence. Sound asleep. The words echoed in the sudden silence of my mind. That's not a cute oopsie story. That's something else entirely. That's a violation. Instantly, a lifetime of confusing memories snapped into sharp, horrifying focus. I'd always known their marriage was cold. As a kid, you just accept it. They never held hands. They never kissed hello or goodbye. I have zero memories of them ever saying I love you to each other. They slept in separate rooms for as long as I can remember. Even when I was a toddler, I'd always just assumed they weren't romantic people. But now, sitting in that sunny kitchen, I was recontextualizing everything. It wasn't a lack of romance. It was the quiet, sterile aftermath of something awful. My own origin story had just been rewritten. And if that's how I came to be, what about my siblings? A cold dread washed over me as I thought about my youngest sister. She was born when I was 10. Right around the time things were getting really bad between them. Mom mentioned once that he fought the divorce tooth and nail. My mind made a leap that made me feel sick to my stomach. Was my sister a desperate, last-ditch attempt to trap her? This was just the first crack in the foundation of the man I knew as my father. Suddenly, I was standing on the edge of a chasm. On one side was the dad I knew, the guy who taught me how to ride a bike and came to my school plays. On the other was this stranger, a man capable of doing this. I had a choice right then. I could stop asking questions and try to forget what she said, or I could push forward and find out who he really is. I think you all know what I had to do. Has anyone else ever been in this position? Where learning the truth feels like it might completely break you. After that first bombshell, it was like a dam had broken. My mom didn't unload on me in some dramatic, vengeful way. It was almost worse. She'd just dropped these little facts into our conversations, almost like she didn't grasp the sheer weight of them anymore. It was just her life. And with every new piece of information, the picture of my father became clearer. And a whole lot uglier. She told me about the spreadsheets. He made her keep these detailed, line-by-line spreadsheets for every single thing she bought. Groceries, kids' clothes, cleaning supplies. He'd sit down and review them, making sure every penny was accounted for, that it all went to what he deemed family needs. My mom wasn't working. Of course. She was a full-time stay-at-home mom to a bunch of kids. He controlled all the money. My brain tried to rationalize it for a second. Maybe he was just frugal. But then the real purpose hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't about budgeting. This was a leash. It was a meticulously crafted system to ensure she never had a single dollar to call her own. She couldn't save up for a bus ticket, let alone enough for a security deposit on an apartment. He wasn't managing their finances. He was managing his captive. And what did he do all day while she was raising his children and running his house? Nothing. He didn't have a job in the traditional sense. He lived off stock dividends from his family's business. So he'd just sit there, in his armchair, reading the paper or watching TV while my mom was juggling laundry, cooking, and screaming toddlers. He contributed nothing. The most absurd story she told me was about his laundry. Before they were married, he would literally drive 3 hours Each way. To his mother's house every week with a hamper of his dirty clothes so she could wash them for him. The realization wasn't that my father was incompetent. It was that his incompetence was a weapon. It wasn't that he couldn't do things. It was that he believed he was fundamentally above them. Housework. Childcare. That was woman's work. Her work. The final piece of this grim portrait fell into place when she mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that he used to visit prostitutes. Again. She said it casually, like it was just another item on the long list of his flaws. At first, I was just numb. But then, it made a horrible kind of sense. My father isn't a smooth talker or a charmer. The idea of him having a long-term, clandestine affair seems almost impossible. He wouldn't have the social skills for it. But prostitutes? That fits perfectly. It wasn't about connection or desire for another person. It was a transaction. He paid for a service, got what he wanted, and left. No effort. No emotional entanglement. No possibility of rejection. It was just another way to use a woman's body for his own needs without having to treat her like a human being. Every story confirmed the same pattern. Control. Entitlement. Use. He saw my mother not as a partner, but as a resource. She was a free housekeeper, a free nanny, and a body he could use when he felt like it. How do you even begin to process that the man who raised you treated your own mother like an unpaid servant and a walking appliance? Is there any coming back from knowing that? I think a part of me hoped that this was all in the past. That the divorce had been a wake-up call. That he was a different person now. Maybe the man who treated my mother that way had died with the marriage. But that hope didn't last long. He hasn't changed. He's just found a new market for his particular brand of misogyny. Now that he's divorced. My 50-year-old father uses his money to date women my age. And I don't mean he happens to have met a nice, emotionally mature 26-year-old. I mean he actively seeks out young, vulnerable women who are in desperate situations. I hear about it from other family members. There are the aspiring models. The ones who haven't made it yet and need help with rent. There are the young women from poorer countries, like Poland, who he can impress with a lifestyle they couldn't otherwise afford. It's a clear, predatory pattern. He's not looking for a partner. He's leveraging his financial power to acquire companionship from women who wouldn't give him the time of day otherwise. This is what truly makes my stomach turn. It connects everything. The way he treated my mom. The prostitutes. And now this. It's all the same thing. It's the behavior of a man who sees women as a commodity. He needs something. Whether it's housework, sex, or just the ego boost of having a beautiful young woman on his arm. And he uses whatever tool is necessary to get it. With my mom, it was financial and emotional entrapment. With these new women, it's just cold, hard cash. And this brings the horror right to my doorstep. It's not an abstract story about the past anymore. When I see him, my brain starts spinning. How does he see me? When he looks at me, his 26-year-old daughter, does he see a person he loves? Or does he just see a category of woman he now targets? What about my friends? Does he look at them and size them up? Wondering about their financial situations, their vulnerabilities. How young would he go? If a desperate 18-year-old crossed his path, would he see a child? Or just another opportunity? The thought is so repulsive it makes it hard to breathe around him. So here I am. My whole life. I've been passionate about women's autonomy. About us being treated with respect. Not as objects or servants. And I've discovered my own father is the walking embodiment of everything I stand against. There are two men living in my head now. There's the dad from my childhood. The one who exists in faded photographs and hazy, pleasant memories. And then there's this other man. The user. The creep. The predator. The problem is, they have the same face. I am so disgusted by him. I want to hate him. To cut him out and never look back. But I can't seem to sever that final thread. That little girl part of me that just thinks, but he's my father. I don't know how to reconcile these two people. How am I supposed to sit across from him at Christmas dinner? Knowing what I know. How do you love a daughter but build a life on the exploitation of women who look just like her?